Hello again. Can you hear me, Professor Shaughnessy?
Yes, I can now.
I'm very sorry. We had a technical problem. Uh, I think you can hear us, dear
Yes,
participants, now.
I can hear you, but not the others.
Yes, because I think the others went away and we will be waiting for them for a few minutes.
Okay.
I'm very sorry for the technical problem.
Okay.
I'll just call someone. Okay, dear participants, we are very sorry for the inconvenience. We had a problem with being online, but I think now you can hear us. And as soon as our first speaker joins us, we will begin.
Okay. Right now it's just you and me.
And I think all introduction words and the other stuff were not heard by our participants, but we will begin with a very short introduction and we will continue with our first speaker.
Ah,
We are sorry for the inconvenience, but since we have four speakers instead of five, I think there will be no problem with time management. And welcome on board, Ashley, Professor Ashley. Sorry for the technical
No,
problem.
I was scared it was me.
There was a problem being online, but now it is on air and everything is fine.
Great.
We are waiting for Professor Dr. Ibrahim, Mohammed Ibrahim, and then we will begin.
well, thank you for handling all of this. We appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
very
Thank
much.
you for hosting.
And we are very happy to see you here.
Oh, I think no.
I am unhappy because I said many good things in the introduction part and people couldn't hear them. Anyway, I can just summarize it in a few seconds again. So, Professor Shognisi, if Dr. Ibrahim faces some technical problems, is it okay for you to begin with you?
I think we can try. We'll try to screen share. If not, I'll just go ahead with the PowerPoints.
No problem. You know, uh,
Ah,
presentation is just a tool,
Yep.
but now we can see it.
okay. Then I'll begin. Okay.
Okay, sure, very good. So let me introduce you to our dear participants and then we can begin. In the introduction part, we said that three things shouldn't stop, whether you are in the COVID 19 or any pandemic or post COVID 19 era. These are education, life, and show. The show must go on, the life must go on, and education must go on. That's why we continue our e talks. Now we will begin with our second speaker because of this technical problem. And we have Assistant Professor Dr. Sorry, we have Professor Dr. Michael Shaughnessy. And He is currently professor at Eastern New Mexico University, and he is currently the editor of the Journal of Gifted Education and Creativity, and has been involved in editing several other journals, and has been teaching online and instructional television classes for several decades. So we can say that he's already experienced in distance education and online education, and he will talk about the dilemma of quality in online classes and who determines that. And the floor is yours, Professor Shaughnessy.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much. And as you mentioned, we are recovering from the COVID crisis when a lot of classes were put online, particularly teacher education classes. And I've got a lot of questions about the quality and the amount of training that they receive in those online classes and whether they are, in fact, as good as face-to-face, where you have good quality instructors providing models and examples and discussions and stories and anecdotes to help students learn and understand and also develop people skills. So what we're about today is looking at face-to-face as opposed to online teacher ed classes and how these issues impact the training of teachers in this current post-COVID climate. Now, what's missing in online classes? We're again going to focus on teacher education training. Now, on the positive side, we do have online classes offering a plethora of positive factors, such as, number one, this is convenient for the students. They don't have to drive to a university. They don't have to worry about parking. They're going to be saving time and gas and oil in terms of getting to the university because they're going to be at home, and everyone knows about the rising gas prices. The positive aspect is that there are capabilities 24/7, so people can log online, go online to Canvas or Blackboard. One can log on at any time of day or night. So it's very, very flexible in terms of scheduling. Very expedient in that people can study at home. They don't have to go to the library. They don't have to go to the local coffee house. And legally, as everyone knows, we have to provide accommodations. And this is a great accommodation for those individuals with special needs who might have mobility issues like quadriplegia or paraplegia or cerebral palsy or something like that. Let me get to the next slide. There we go. Okay. A generalization that I have to make is that there's probably less rigor in that when you put something online on Canvas or Blackboard, it has to be very structured, has to be very focused, module-based. So this is one of the issues that students aren't getting as much. In fact, I can talk very, very quickly, but students can't necessarily keep up with me. The good thing is that we have computer and internet facilitation. Students can go to the internet to get more in-depth and elaboration. But the key thing is that face-to-face, we're able as instructors to provide real, true feedback, accommodations, validations, and support and nurturance for a lot of people who need that support. Okay, what's missing in online classes for teacher education and training? What I call true accountability. Face-to-face, I can see a student who is not participating. Yes, we can get a secondary gauge from the discussion board where a student is saying, oh, I agree with such and such, I agree with so-and-so, but there's no real true accountability. We can take maybe a point or two away. Very important thing that we need to look at is that teacher education, we are mentoring those students to be true professionals. Sometimes we have formal mentoring things set up. Sometimes the mentoring is kind of informal, where someone will see a really potential good instructor with charisma, and they will try to nurture. In face-to-face, students are being exposed to professionalism in terms of how they dress. Do they wear a suit? Do they wear a tie? Do they wear professional grooming is another important. Face-to-face, people see instructors conducting themselves in a professional manner. We don't get that in a face-to-face class. Another issue in terms of pacing, sometimes instructors can know when to slow down or when they need to quickly review. Now, online classes can be attenuated to the point of what we call diminishing returns, that they're not getting that pacing, that they leave. Some students procrastinate until the very end, and they don't get as much out of it. Face-to-face, they're focusing and keeping on track. Another thing about face-to-face, we have real, true discussion, real, true debate, real one-to-one interactions where people can give and take and change ideas, exchange ideas, give back and forth. Face-to-face, students are getting an immediate reaction. They're getting feedback. They're getting interaction right away. It's not like they have to wait 24 hours to get some feedback from some person at a distance. And when students have good ideas, they are getting immediate acknowledgement, immediate recognition for their great ideas. There are certain administrative organizations out there called Quality Matters, and these organizations review these online classes, and I'm not sure that we are really getting quality. We get a lot of checklists that rely on what I call inordinate rigidity, that you have to have your office hours posted, you have to have your email, you have to have the textbook, you have to have all this stuff that Quality Matters says is important, but sometimes it's the human interaction that's important. All of these details and specificity do not equal quality. We have to look at what does a real quality class comprise of. These Quality Matters people, they promote rubrics, but rubrics do not remediate. I have published 2 papers now on this, addressing the issue that rubrics in and of themselves do not help students get better. They just kind of give a guideline or a focal point for the students to know what constitutes an A, B, C, D. Big problem is over the last 10 years, as our moderator has pointed out, things have changed. We have evolving and changing standards as to what constitutes what we call quality. Big problem with online classes is that certain faculty members who have other demands, they're on committees, they're on search committees, they're doing research, they're doing advising. This takes away from other activities that are thought to be equally important by the administration. And again, with face-to-face, I have a true relationship with that student rather than just a picture that somebody puts up from their high school yearbook. Oh, there's a picture of me. Now, I don't know how valuable that is. How does that really engage the student with me? How does that give them a feel for me and my professionalism? But Quality Matters, they insist on having these pictures, and they think that by miracles or magic that this is going to help with the relationship. Big problem is inadequate teacher training in online instruction. I'm going to go over this with one of my IT people. I'll just read it for you. He says, the IT person says, this is my last day of work, so I won't have time to completely train you on whether it be Canvas or Blackboard. But what's going to happen is, he says, I'm going to show you enough to give you unwarranted confidence when you should be feeling dangerously incompetent. I say, well, that sounds worse than doing nothing. The IT person says, before I leave, I'll tell everyone that you're lazy. This is not a good way to train people to do online instruction, guys. I'm sorry. Now, there are options. How can a student have a true relationship with a faculty member? Well, gosh, they can pick up the phone. We have these devices, these cell phones, and I see them in classes, and they're popping away, texting away, but they don't bother to call me. We have this great device called Zoom, where we can sit down and discuss some topics, and I can give them immediate feedback. These things add what we call another dimension to the student teacher interaction. Obviously, we understand that there are time constraints on both parts, and we have to work around this. Now, information about the instructor and these people who try to guide us. You know, I'm not sure how many students really want to know about my hobbies, whether I can play piano or guitar or collect stamps or coins. Am I into taxidermy? I don't know if a student really needs to know what my musical tastes are, whether it be jazz or whatever, or that I worked in a funeral parlor as an unculator. I'm not sure all that information really enhances course learning. Maybe it's the textbook that really enhances course learning. Maybe it's force processing, where every week they have to do certain assignments or participate in the discussion board or look at the PowerPoints or review the vocabulary. Now, we've all encountered this. Problems with online instruction in the home. My dogs are not barking right now. I'm very happy. The phone is not ringing. I'm very happy. Now, I don't have any babies crying, and I don't have anybody moaning and groaning and complaining right now in the background. Nobody is knocking on the door. Federal Express is not making delivery, and the TV is not going because I have no kids. But you have some people who are taking these classes, and they're basically trying to multitask. They're doing their laundry, they're running the dishwasher, they're microwaving stuff. They're not focusing on what they need to be focusing on. Face-to-face provides more student-to-student interaction. This is clearly mandated by Quality Matters, but how to accomplish it is another problem. Some people theoretically believe that group work is important, and if it really is deemed necessary, it's a lot easier to do it in person. Okay, you can't get cooperation necessarily from people at a distance. Important thing, good teachers are charismatic. Good teachers engage. Good teachers pull students in. And in these classes, students report one key word: they have fun. They enjoy learning. What a concept that we should be engaging students and having them have fun. Big problem in terms of student support. That's kind of lacking in online classes. At least at the university, you can go and get some help at some office. Big problem, again, post-COVID. Do online classes provide social skills in this day and age of COVID recovery? I've got to say, if the COVID crisis has taught us anything, it's taught us about the need for human contact, human touch, human interaction, and also social emotional development. Guys, we have a generation of students who have been raised on TikTok and YouTube, and very few mature, responsible role models. All of our other presenters are exemplary role models of professionalism, of care, concern, compassion, and you don't get that online. I mean, just stop to think about what's been happening. People turn on the TV, watching males slapping each other, screaming at each other, using vulgar language. We're in a culture that this is not really good role modeling. As a kind of school psychologist, I have to say that when students aren't getting the affective and emotional support and nurturance that they need at home, the first place they're going to turn to is that teacher, their peer group, and the school. They don't necessarily learn frustration tolerance and coping skills online. They might learn how to cope with things when the internet or the system crashes, but the classroom may be where students learn coping skills, task analysis, time management, test-taking skills, other important skills. They don't get these things online. They may be learned incidentally, but they're not necessarily directly, specifically, precisely taught. Now, my own area of research is on feedback. How much is needed? What kind? Face-to-face, almost immediate feedback, verbal body language. Sometimes we have to really overpraise students because they're not as aware as to how bright and insightful they are. Sometimes people will misread text messages that might be caustic or acerbic, but we have to be careful about the type and amount of feedback that we provide. Big problem online. Often there's a prolonged period where students do not get or receive feedback, and instructors have no way of knowing if the kid receives the feedback, understands the feedback, and how much it makes an impact on their learning. Okay, just about to wrap up. I know I'm given 15 minutes. In person, there's excitement. Kids make friends. What a concept. Adolescents form relationships that turn out to be supportive friendships that last and endure. I asked the question, do online classes have a negative or deleterious impact on the social and emotional growth of and development of college students? Many students go to college for various reasons, to play sports, to find a mate, simply to keep parents happy. But with online, they're not getting the face-to-face and social give and take and interaction and the feedback from other students. Good thing about in-person, teachers collaborate. These are two good friends of mine, Joe Renzulli and Sally Reese, and they are, again, exemplary role models who do all kinds of research with schools, and teachers have to be able to collaborate with each other. Okay, the problem when we look at this realm is that most research is kind of focused or minuscule in nature, specific to one domain, one realm, one methodology. You read research where somebody studies online in science 7th grade versus face-to-face science at the 7th grade. Big question, how does one quantify engagement? We want students to be engaged, and we want to look at this factor of classroom charisma. You all know that there have been great teachers in your lives. What is it about them that really pulled you in, that really got you interested in learning and being a good, better teacher? How do we best measure secondary educational latent learning? Professionalism, higher order thinking skills. What a concept that we should be teaching higher order critical thinking skills, research skills. Another big issue, Socratic dialogue, if it's deemed important. And there are some problems with the hybrid nature of some online classes. There might be one weekend or maybe one Saturday. You also have problems of experienced versus novice teachers. Not all of them are master teachers when they first teach a online class. It takes some learning, it takes some time, it takes some feedback, takes some supervision. And I see a lot of nodding heads out there who are agreeing with me, and I thank you for the feedback. I have a whole bunch of sources which I would be glad to share with you, but I think that we'll allow our other speakers to present in their specific areas and share what they have with us. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Shaughnessy.
Thank you.
You provided a very good comparison of online and face-to-face education from different perspectives. Actually, we always think that when people who support online education only consider some limited issues, but you showed us that there are lots of perspectives we need to cover, and you provided almost all of them in a good way. Parents want students to see at school an emotional perspective, educational perspective, cognitive perspective, psychomotor perspective, all of them. Thank you very much. As for the instructional technology, actually, I have an analogy. I believe that technology is just like a forest now. and we are adventurers, survivors in that forest. And it is everywhere. We cannot go over it, we cannot go under it, we have to go through it. It means that if you have a big forest and you have more opportunities, but the thing is that in a big forest, you can find the food easily, but you can be the food at the same time. So while comparing all these issues, we need to consider many, many issues. And thank you very much for this comprehensive comparison. And if we have any questions, actually the short ones, we can ask to our speaker now. If you don't have any, we can just ask all of the questions at the end of the seminar. I will wait for a few seconds for the questions. And I want to apologize. I beg your pardon, Professor Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim. We had a technical problem, but now we will continue with you. I'm very sorry for that.
No problem.
Okay, dear participants, if you have any questions, you can send it to our chat box and I will ask it to our speaker. We have almost 80 registered attendees, but I think since many people know that these talks are available on İJONMES YouTube channel, some of them will watch them later, because while comparing face-to-face and online education, we are also talking about time and place flexibility. Maybe this is the online seminars flexibility to watch later. Okay, we have a question. What do you think about effectiveness of hybrid? Is it more better than online or face-to-face completely? Professor Shaughnessy, this is the question.
All right, that is a good question, but it depends on how you define hybrid. In certain realms, we talk about operational definition. When you say the word hybrid, are you talking about once a month, once a week, or a weekend? And it's scattered. That is a very, very difficult question to answer because we don't have a good definition of what people mean when they say the word hybrid. And a lot of administrators will say, oh, we offer hybrid classes, but there's 1 out of 100. So it's a kind of misleading advertising.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you are right. It is difficult to answer too, because, you know, in research, we have qualitative and quantitative methods. Sometimes a simple answer is just mix them, but mixing is not always the solution. So while using the word hybrid, maybe we need to be cautious. Another question is, if face-to-face learning seems best to us due to we adjust it for decades, what if the world forces us to adjust online classes? So will we think online is better?
Well, we were forced to go online during COVID. We did not, after COVID vanished, consider going back to face-to-face. In other words, there's a gap. People really did not stop to think, is this better than this other methodology? Now, in medicine, if we look at the treatment of one drug versus the other, they do comparative studies. They do research. They do either qualitative or quantitative. That way we have at least some information or some data to make a wise, prudent, judicious decision about things. We haven't done that.
Thank you very much. I think we have a question which is a general one, but maybe you can just approach it from one perspective. I wonder how we integrate online education effectively to our current curriculum. So I think it is something like we already have something going on, and how can we integrate it?
Well, I was in Finland a few years ago, and I visited 6 universities in Finland. And they, as you know, have the #1 system of education in the entire world. But in Finland, what they do is they plan almost a year in terms of making decisions. You know, in other countries, they want to make very, very quick snap decisions. In Finland, they take a lot of pride in education. They regard their teachers highly. Pasi Sahlberg has written books about education in Finland. I've been there and done presentations for them about 6 times now. I'm looking forward to going back. But they spend a lot of time each year looking at things and taking almost a year to really dissect big major decisions that are really going to impact. But again, Finland is a little bit different. It's a very homogeneous country, not a heterogeneous country. So we need to look at some of these factors and variables that aren't always examined or explored.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Shaughnessy. We really appreciate your contributions. And for the last question again, you are saying that it depends on many factors. We need to consider the context and many other issues. Thank you very much. We learned a lot and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now our second speaker, actually, he was the first speaker, but we had a technical problem. That's why we apologize.
No problem.
But now we will continue with Associate Professor Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim. And I'm going to introduce shortly again. Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim is a professor of instructional design and technology, College of Education at Arkansas Tech University in the United States. And he has taught in the United States, Egypt, Yemen, and Germany. He holds a PhD and master's degree from Oklahoma State University, Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, and a bachelor's degree from Cairo University, Egypt. His scholarship efforts include original research such as publications of articles in scholarly journals, conducting regional, national, and international workshops, supervising of graduate research projects, as well as serving on doctoral committees. Dr. Ibrahim's research focuses on educational technology, online, hybrid, and face-to-face teaching strategies, multimedia, and cognition. And now, he's going to talk about educational technology trends in post-COVID-19. And the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Galib, again. I'm sorry for the technical issue. Today, we're going to try to pick up where actually we have some problems with the technology before COVID, and now we also discuss the effectiveness of the use of the old used technology in the classroom. So in this presentation, I'm just looking forward to see how the technology has been deployed for the last 3 or 4 years can be used after COVID-19. The agenda today will be, we're going to go over some of the emerging technology in education, some of the immersive learning technologies, the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning in education, the use of big data and the cloud computer, and then we're going to talk about the new paradigm shift in the use of technology and how this will be aligned with the theories we used before. As a background, the education technology became more crucial during COVID-19, and a lot of, almost 100% of the schools, higher education and K-12, they depend completely on the use of technology to be able to communicate and continue the education. This has never been the case in any previous year before, but even after we came back to face-to-face after the COVID has been contained a little bit, the use of technology never been stopped. We always use technology even after we came back. And I was showing this, I don't know, in Arkansas, we applied for some of the CARE fund the government gave us, and they give us some of the virtual reality Oculus to be able to be used in teaching. actually not to solve the problem of them being away, but at least we can utilize some of the new technologies to enhance the communication between the students and the teachers. So the new technologies we used during the COVID became dominant in the classroom, in our daily lives and the classroom, even after the COVID has been contained. So therefore, today the topic will be focus on some of the new trends, some of the things became more used during the COVID-19 and continue after the COVID-19 to be used in the classroom. Some of the new technologies, I'm going to try to go over this quickly. It's immersive learning technology, which they call it extended reality, which include three main different technologies: the virtual reality, augmented reality, and the mixed reality. We're going to go over the definition of each one of this. And then we're going to talk about the artificial intelligence, how the AI and the machine learning has been used also in the education so they can benefit from the large amount of data to personalize learning for the students. And also the use of big data and how they use the cloud computing to be able to collect the information from the students and create the personalized learning for our students. And then we're going to go over the theoretical framework. So the extended reality has three different types of technologies. The first one is augmented reality, the second one is mixed reality, and the third one is virtual reality. There is a slight difference between each one of them. Since this is just a seminar to share with everyone from the audience and the speakers what the difference between them, and then maybe later on we can answer some deeper questions. The augmented reality is the use of a static information or visual elements to integrate in the real environment. The mixed reality, however, is the user interacts with some of the responsive virtual elements integrated into the real environment. And the virtual reality is the user is immersed into a 3D 360 environment. So these are some of the use. That this is, for example, the virtual reality. The like this Oculus, for example, there are a lot of glasses like these. It will allow students to be in 3D 360 degrees, and there's an unlimited number of apps that the students can interact with them. The second one is augmented reality, which basically a software that you can use your phone or the iPad, and then it will allow you to see actual caption of elements around you. If you have, for example, a lab, or if you are inside a store, you can see the prices even without going to read this by yourself. The last one is the mixed reality. It's the combination between the virtual and the blend between the virtual and the physical around you. Students can be used in medicine and also in engineering. So what are the advantages we discovered throughout the COVID and also before COVID and after COVID? We found that some of the use of the XR, it's helping students to, when they have short attention span, they get, as the speaker just mentioned before me, the students cannot focus with you, and therefore, when you immerse them into 3D, they will be able to learn better. The students also are learning information ultra fast, bite size, and also attention grabbing chunk, so will be able to have their own pace of learning. Some of the other advantages also can allow students to be in a simulated environment without being actually exposed to a lot of harmship. The use also in very dangerous situation. In Arkansas Tech University, we have vocational section of the school. We have mechanics, we have firefighters, and so on. They can actually use the software to be able to learn without being in a danger zone. One of the most effective way also use of using of the XR is the virtual speech app. It's a very complete big app that you immerse yourself into an audience environment, and then you start talking, and then you see the reaction from them and give you points. So it's actually replacing some of the actual life scenarios, but it's in a virtual reality environment. There is also another use of the XR software called Labster, which is a huge simulated science lab that the students can interact with chemicals and equipment without being in a lab. Finally, the use of National Geographic, they have it Explore VR, which allows students to have virtual trips to travel in different places, to interact with artifacts without leaving their classroom. So in summary, the advantages of the XR is better engagement with real life, save time and money, and lower in the risk for the students when they are learning. Now, the second one is the artificial intelligence and machine learning. These are softwares that use a very sophisticated algorithm to try to personalize the learning path for each student. Machine learning does the same thing. So one example of the Altitude is the Altitude. It's a learning system founded by Google and engineered by Facebook. These will allow students to learn specific objectives and tasks while the software is personalizing their path, giving them the chunk they need without being too much or too little to learn. So the concept of the artificial intelligence and machine learning, it's used similarly in some of the management system like Blackboard, Canvas, or the Desire to Learn. It's the ability of the software to predict where the students is and then give them what they need to progress in the learning process. So it's also used in the classroom with Amazon Alexa and other softwares that they have the machine inside the classroom, and they can ask, the machine will respond to them based on their level of information they need. So the artificial intelligence and machine learning played actually a very great big role in medicine and manufacturing as of now, and also other big corporations. As I mentioned before, it allows students to gain better knowledge of the behavior of the students, enhancing learning efficiency, and allow better evaluation of the success and the progress of the learners. Big data is a short term of all the digital footprint of all the students online. So for example, in Blackboard, everything students actually doing, I can look at it and see how much they access the content, how long they stayed in the content, how accurate they interact with the content and pass exams or submit papers, and so on. All this information, since it's digital, it goes online, and this is what they call it big data. There is a lot of softwares, for example, in Blackboard, what we use here at Arkansas Tech University, we have to buy this, unfortunately. It's a very expensive software that we can analyze all the students' activities online and design a path for them. This is what the big data benefit for. It's actually capture the information, process the information of the students, analyze it, and then visualize the information so we can make decision based on this information. The cloud computing is the same thing, since all the movement and all the interaction between the students and the content is online, all the information will be stored online. Now, the cloud-based learning management system are widely used in university as of now. This is not something new. It's very old, goes back almost 20 years or more. And also using these new technologies in conjunction with the learning management system can enhance and not replace the actual teacher. So now, as we are preparing our future teachers, are we going to completely remove everything we taught them about the use of the established pedagogical theories, or we can add something to it? As a matter of fact, seeing the new technologies and the new trend in the technology field, we gonna add to what we have without actually removing any of the paradigm we used to have before. The only thing we're gonna be using in this context of the new technology is the experience-based learning. So what is
Professor Guam, I'm very sorry for interrupting. Since we have a time limit for the webinar, maybe it closes automatically. So kindly, I'm asking you to wrap it up in a few minutes, please.
Absolutely. This is one of the last ones, actually. So the only thing we're going to be focusing on experience-based learning. So it's reacting to the paradigm of the concept-based teaching. It means we will be using more what the students actually doing to move forward with their learning. We are not going to remove everything about, for example, cognitive theory of multimodal learning. We have to use a small chunk of information not to be exceeded what the cognition of human can do. So this will wrap up my my contribution, and I'm open for any question. Thank you so much again for this opportunity.
Okay, thanks a lot. In order to save time, I'm going to ask the questions at the end of the webinar. Now I want to continue with our third and last speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Stephanie Atchley. Dr. Atchley is an Assistant Professor of Educational Leadership and Technology at Tarleton State University. She holds an educational degree in leadership from Travica Neverin University, and Dr. Atchley has over 20 years of experience in K-12 education as a teacher, principal, and director of special education. And she will be talking about incorporating gamification in online course modules. And the floor is yours, Professor Atchley.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Again, thank you for having me today. And I feel that my presentation closely ties into a lot of the points that Dr. Shaughnessy and Dr. Rahim made in their presentations. So I was specifically looking at graduate student perceptions on the utilization of badges in online course modules. And as a campus principal, I've seen, my 3rd and 4th grade teachers utilize these kind of techniques or apps in their classrooms to increase student engagement. So I thought, why not try this in one of my graduate courses? I teach in 100% online and asynchronous environment. So as you can imagine, that can present some challenges. And when Dr. Shaughnessy talked about, some of the barriers in online learning, like building those relationships and being able to model what professionalism looks like. I mean, I could so relate to those points that he was making. So it is challenging to teach in an online environment and make sure that my students get everything that they would get in a face-to-face environment. So my study looked at incorporating gamification into my online course modules. And gamification is a strategy that introduces a high level of innovation and encourages motivation and engagement to promote learning. And today, this presentation is going to focus specifically on the gaming element of badges. And this was easy for me to do, as badges or Badger is already incorporated into Canvas. I'm not sure if it's incorporated to Blackboard as well, but it made it easy for me to implement this into my Canvas modules. So 6 questions guided my study. I wanted to examine the positive effects of incorporating gaming elements. And this involved questions like comparing my performance with the performance of other students in online courses, like leaderboards fueled my interest to compete. So did that motivate students or did it demotivate students? I also wanted to examine the psychological effects, and questions on the survey that addressed that construct included game elements increase my sense of belonging in the online community, or using game elements reduces the feeling of boredom. I also wanted to look at the effects of positive feedback, and you saw or heard Dr. Shaughnessy mention, students really appreciate that positive feedback. And questions that address that construct included things like the instant feedback helped me to know how well I'm doing in the course, or the instant feedback increased my engagement level in the online course. I also reviewed cognitive effects. Some of those questions included things like, I believe that using gaming elements in online learning contributed to an increase in my feeling of being competent. And then I also wanted to look at, does incorporating the badge modules does incorporating badges into my Canvas modules, does it help students formulate good learning habits? And some of those questions included, using game elements motivated me to invest more effort to understand the content more deeply. And then finally, I want to know, did my students experience any negative effects from incorporating gaming elements in online learning? And that question simply stated, let's see, incorporated gaming elements in online learning created negative feelings between students. So those are just some sample questions. So like I said earlier, I teach all graduate students. My program is 100% online and asynchronous. And specifically, I teach students in the principal certification programs. So 33 graduate students were my participants in this study. I did a survey for data collection, and I used a 5-point Likert scale that ranged from strongly agree to strongly disagree. So my results were interesting. While I was a little disappointed in the number of students that chose neutral, overall, very few of my students said that they experienced any type of negative impact from the incorporation of badges in online learning. But I was really happy to see that over 66% of my students were so appreciative of having that instant feedback provided by badges. And again, I think that goes along with what Dr. Shaughnessy was saying. Students need that instant feedback. They need to know, if they're on the right track. And in an online environment, they don't always get that instant feedback. But this app or this tool provides that for those students. I also had a qualitative question in a survey, and I just wanted to share what some of those student comments included. So one student says it keeps the learning entertaining and fun. Another said it allows for a friendly, fun competition among peers. Badges encourage me to learn the content more in depth. I feel it brought me closer to my peers, and I was at the top of the leaderboard. So I think overall, my students enjoyed having this friendly competition with their peers. I just wanted to show you, this is what the leaderboard or the Canvas dashboard looks like. It's kind of like a digital sticker chart. But again, I still feel like my adult students were just as motivated as what I observed, in the elementary classrooms as a campus principal. So I do think it encouraged them to be more active and involved in the learning. So overall, I found quite a few benefits. I think it was great because I was able to, with one click, as the instructor, I could see which students hadn't earned a badge. So sometimes my grade book is really spread out in Canvas and it's hard to see which students are struggling, but badges in Canvas provided me, an instant visual of who might need some extra support. Also, my students really appreciated the extra feedback. The leaderboard is privacy protected, so it gives the students a pseudo name so that while they can see where they rank in the leaderboard, they can't see the names of any other students, but they can see how they're compared to their peers in class. So I thought that was an advantage. And finally, it helps students visualize their academic achievements. All right, that was short and sweet.
Thank you very much. Actually, good timing, because I received a notice from the system. Maybe it closes in 5 minutes. That's why
I heard that.
if our participants have any questions for Dr. Ashley, you can write them. And we have 3 questions for Dr. Ibrahim, and I'm going to ask them. Rabia Nur asks, what are the responsibilities of parents in post-COVID era?
Well, the technology I just talked about actually involved the parents heavily in this process, and also received feedback from everyone, including, like I said, the parents, especially when you work with the K-12. We done some studies during the COVID-19, and we found that engaging the parents will keep the students engaged more than if we communicate just directly without the involvement of the parents. Most of the softwares we engage the parents, and it's really more effective than the students will be dropped by the school, by the parents, and then they have no idea what they did. But online learning, we allow them to engage more than before.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question is, what do you think about metaverse? Do you think it will be applicable for language teaching?
I think all the emerging technologies we talked about, and also the metaverse, it would be fantastic if you can connect with other international people. This is actually used in different schools, and it works very effective when you have accent free with some accent. Students, they will learn better than even watching TV, because this is an immediate response without any problem. So I see the future will be actually using and more attractive for them, because the students are immersed. They don't need to travel, for example, to England. They can be part of their home, and they are talking live with somebody with accent free.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe we face the dark side of technology, so I want to ask a question to Professor Ashley, because gamification is one of the popular terms, right? And actually in English language teaching, especially teaching English to young learners, we really appreciate gamifying and gamification, because children automatically engaged and involved in physical activities and games. A mother calls for dinner, the child responds, no, I'm not hungry, because games are more important. So for the gamification, do you think not involving physically is a hindrance for children in online gamification? And how can we find a solution to this? And we cannot hear you, Dr. Ashley. I think you need to turn your
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. So I think face-to-face is always, the best option, and being interactive and engaged. But, I do think non-interactive types of gamification can still motivate and inspire children.
Okay. Maybe there will be no time for saying goodbye, because I really received notice about ending the meeting. I will ask the questions, but if the system sends us automatically out, please accept our apologies for that. And for now, and in advance, I want to thank one more time. Another question is, what do you think about anxiety of students after COVID-19? I see a lot of students that experience it. And Michael Shaughnessy is showing his email address. If you have any further questions, he can answer, and all other professors can answer them. And this question is for you, Dr. Ibrahim, or anyone who wants to answer. Actually, in some European countries, I saw that there are some centers for post-COVID-19 times, psychological issues and some other problems. For this anxiety issue, what do you think?